In their long and decorated history, Nintendo has been synonymous with the idea of new and innovative experiments through various accessories on their consoles, whether that be third-party or first-party. Examples of such are the Miracle Piano, Robotic Operating Buddy, and of course the infamous Power Glove. But instead, let's talk about a unique device that landed Nintendo in the 1999 edition of the Guinness Book of World Records, the Game Boy Camera. Released in 1998, the Game Boy Camera was officially recognized as the world's smallest digital camera at the time. However, it's very underpowered in the specs department. The camera itself featured the ability to only take black and white digital images, and this was utilizing the 4-color palette of the Game Boy system. Aside from the software of the system, the camera's eyeball itself features a 128 by 128 pixel CMOS sensor, so as you can imagine, it's pretty low resolution. To put that into perspective, I'm going to show you an image that I've taken in the game, and I'm going to shrink it down to what 128 by 128 would be on your screen. Of course, this also assumes that you're running the video in full screen and on a 1080p resolution screen. Now, the Game Boy camera works very well with a host of different devices, including the original Game Boy Fat, and also the Game Boy Pocket. I do not have the Game Boy Pocket, but I have something similar, which is the Game Boy Color. It also works with both versions of the Game Boy Advance, both SP and original. That said, I don't really know why you would ever want to run it with a Game Boy Advance SP, because there's kind of a critical flaw in the fact you'd have to hold the camera upside down. It's just kind of awkward, impractical at best. For the part of trying to show you guys the actual operation of the game, it's not like I could just plug in a AV cable to my Game Boy. So we're gonna have to break out the Super Game Boy, which yes, it works with. But what it creates is a god-awful amalgamation of technology and essentially what becomes a really old and fairly expensive webcam. It's just not a pretty sight to see whatsoever. You look at it compared to a regular SNES cartridge and it's like triple the size. The only thing more clumsy and unwieldy than this device right here is the one time that I plugged WarioWare Twisted into a Game Boy player. I'll have to just show you that at another time. And that's because right now we still gotta figure out how we're getting this frickin' thing in there. You see, the IKEA shelving and entertainment display unit that I've got only has about 10 or so inches of clearance, so it just will not fit. This thing's too tall. Even if I wanted to, I have to play it on the floor. That's my only option I have here. Not like I would really ever play the game in any other circumstances, but geez, come on. The game boots up with relative ease, just like every other Game Boy game, and then you're greeted with copyright signatures from both Game Freak and Creatures. Yes, that Game Freak and that Creatures, from the Pokemon Company. After that, you're greeted with Mario dancing like the whitest person to ever have a seizure while dancing, and then after that, you get to the main menu of the game. From the start, you're given 3 visible options: shoot, view, and play. So let's go to shoot first, because this is a camera after all. In here, you're greeted with 5 more simple options of shoot again for the actual camera, check, items, run, and magic. As you expect, whenever you hit shoot, you're taken straight to the camera, and there's only 2 real options: contrast and brightness. This doesn't have zoom or any of the other clarity functions that you can use. There's no real white balance, because obviously it is not color-based, and it has the frame rate of a PowerPoint slideshow. Everything jitters around, and it's, like I said, it's like a very terrible webcam in a way. After you manage to crank out your masterpiece of pixelated barf, you can use the check option to go look at them in a sort of film reel style way, where it'll go from the beginning to the end. And if you like the world of cheesy photo editing, press on a photo. You can paint on it, you can add stamps, you can add a frame, you can add comments if you want. Or, if you see up at the very top, you even have the option to print it, if you have a Game Boy printer. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Now, this bite-sized printer doesn't run on, like, regular paper. It doesn't use ink, it runs on thermal paper. And also, it's bite-sized in a way, but it's also a hulking monstrosity of batteries and everything else. You'll see that in a second. Now, I can't use this because I don't have a link cable. I also don't feel like putting in 6, count them 6, batteries. It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Moving beyond that hunk of junk, we'll go to items, which isn't items at all. Actually, it's just regular camera functions like self-timer and time-lapse. Now, this thing doesn't have high enough quality for time-lapse to really work, in my opinion, and self-timers, usually you need a stand or something for that. So let's move to magic, which, oh, there's quite a few options here. Let's go down the line. Trick lenses, montage, panorama, and game face. Now, Trick Legends isn't anything really special in my mind. It's mostly mirror effects, squishing faces, and picture-in-picture kind of framing. So, yeah, it's kind of cute, nothing really great. Now, while the next thing calls itself montage, it's really anything but. It's more of a simple splice or composite, by allowing you to combine 2 or more images into a single picture. Now, the next thing actually is pretty cool in my mind. It's panorama, which allows you to take multiple photos and then it'll combine them to a single image. And then you can print it out. You can either do it in a tall or wide format. But same thing as before. It suffers from the lack of quality. You want to do something good with this, but it just comes out looking like a pixelated blob of nothing. Now, the final option of Game Face allows you to take 4 photos of your face and combine them into an actual in-game situation. It's kind of like how things are with the Nintendo 3DS of today, and you can use it in Face Raiders, which copies your face and applies it to a game. Now, personally, I actually forgot to do this before getting everything set up, so you'll get to see the process of me taking photos of my face and applying it. Now, the game itself is really just kind of nothing special. It's essentially Ball from the Game & Watch series. So, if you like that, good. If not, move on to the next thing. And that leads us to the next one, which is the infamous Run section. And Nintendo hasn't certainly strayed away from the idea of alternative humor. They've had some just very weird and bizarre things. So, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to let you just look at these screens yourself, and you figure out what to make of them. Yeah, pretty weird. So, I'm gonna move on, do something a little happy. I forgot, there's a doodle section that you can go to that's under the game face. So let's go there and add some stickers and stuff and paint. It should also be noted, since this is both Game Freak and Nintendo, you'll see the appearance of Pokemon sprites as well as Mario sprites. It's kind of neat. It serves little to no purpose unless you want to, like, sticky them all over your face or something, like I'll do in a little bit here. But it's just a neat Easter egg, I guess. Alright, let's just get out of shooting and go straight to view. The first thing you'll see is a very creepy face thing that keeps eating and unswallowing itself depending on whether or not you hover over album or show. Now, an album, it should be self-explanatory. Hopefully you know what to do with an album. It's where your photos go. If not, just go to like a supermarket and take up scrapbooking or something, and it's apparently a relieving hobby. For show, you get to add some glamour and glitz to your stuff, like slideshows with the world's most generic music you've ever heard. Moving on. Animation is Hotspots it is. Hotspots is a tricky little thing where you can leave nodes all over your image, and if you click on it, it'll link to another one. Okay, so yeah, I forgot a key component. Whenever you want to do this kind of stuff, you actually have to create the hotspots or the animation. Otherwise, you're just sitting there clicking the image and looking like an idiot. Or seeing that creepy face again. Now to get there, you actually have to go to a secret menu by hitting select on the main menu screen, and a little backpack will open up on the Game Boy camera, and you'll get extra options. While you're here, if you want to use another option, you can fuse and split images together, so you can make your already terrible images even worse. Have fun with that. I'm not going to bother with animation, because that's entirely too complex, and you have to do 46 frames of it if you want it to look decently good. So instead, I'm just going to do the hotspot, and you'll see that in action.
Truly earth-shattering. It's amazing.
I suppose if you wanted to put in the extra effort, you could do something pretty cool with this, like you could make a point-and-click game if you wanted to, but, there's much better tools out there, especially today. If you're into that kind of hipster nostalgia scene, sure, go ahead. So pretty much the only thing that's last on the list is Space Fever 2, which is a throwback to the old Nintendo arcade game Space Fever, which came out in 1979. If you decide to shoot one of the 2 enemies at the beginning of the game, you get to be taken to 2 separate minigames. One where you can make your own soundtrack on DJ, and Ball, which you can basically do the juggling game with a couple more options. It's pretty simple and straightforward, just kind of like any shmup kind of game, but I apparently suck at it, I guess. If you reach a score of 2,000 points, you can get a bonus minigame called Run, Run, Run. I did not get it, so I'll just go ahead and paste some footage in here so you can see it yourself. And that's pretty much it for the Game Boy cameras. There's none more. Oh yeah, that's right. If you hit start, you get one last secret screen. Seems legit. And I guess that pretty much leaves the last thing we're gonna do is the credits, of course.